Bedwars, a minigame made by some clever individuals from the Minecraft community. It spiked up in popularity alongside other PvP minigames, such as Skywars and The Bridge. It also gave birth to Bedwars legends such as GamerBoy80, Purple, and Target 3D Gaming. There are so many aspects of the game one can talk about, but I'm going to be talking about one in particular. My name is Backfire301, and I'm going to be talking about all the damage you can be dealt with in a Bedwars game, and which one of them is the most annoying to be dealt with. For those of you who may not know what this game is about, Bedwars is a PvP minigame where up to 8 teams with up to 4 people compete against each other to see who can be the last team standing. Once your bed is gone, you may never respawn. The generator will spawn resources, which lets you buy better weapons or tools and special items to help you win the game. For this list of worst damage dealt in a Bedwars game, I will be looking into 2 aspects. Number 1, how much damage does said damage deals? And number 2, how often do you take said damage? So, without further ado, let's get on to the list. The first kind of damage I will be talking about is PvP damage. As I've said before, Bedwars is a minigame popular for its immersive PvP style, which really differentiates Bedwars with other PvP-based minigames, such as Practice or Kit PvP. Since Bedwars is a minigame with PvP as its base, I'm pretty sure it answers the question to how often do you take the damage. As for how much damage do you take from it, it really depends. Better swords does better damage. Better armor takes less damage. With all that in mind, PvP damage is not the most annoying damage to be received in a Bedwars game, since you will be dealt with it, and it's not gonna be a problem once you get the hang of it. Next on the list is TNT damage. TNT is normally used to blow up enemy bed defenses, damaging the enemy team close in range as well. The knockback from the TNT might just knock the enemy, or you, into the void, if not dealing enough damage for you to be a one-shot. However, there are a couple of players who use TNT to do TNT jumps. How do you do a TNT jump? A player would place the TNT near themselves and use the knockback from the TNT to propel themselves over to another location, where it might take quite some time to reach. The TNT does do significant damage to the player, but with perfect coordination and skill, TNT jumping might just be the key point to your victory. As for how often you will be dealt with this damage, it's not that often. Yes, TNT is used to blow up bed defenses, but most players would also choose to rush with tools instead, since TNT is quite costly, while tools are permanent. Besides, once you see a TNT placed down onto your bed defense, one would know to run away from the TNT instead of letting it knock yourselves in the void. As for TNT jumpers, it's really rare to see someone who actually does that on a daily basis. Some people only do it for YouTube or for fun, but never really for casual gameplays or sweats. So, with all that considered, I would say TNT damage is not the most annoying damage you could be dealt with. The next damage I will be talking about is fireball damage. Fireballs are a special item which you can buy from the in-game shop with a costly price of 40 iron. By right-clicking while holding the fireball in hand, you will launch it over to the direction you are looking at. Fireballs are mostly used when an enemy is on a bridge, as the fireball will blow up the bridge, resulting in your enemy falling into the void. It may also be used to break bed defenses with wool, sandstone, clay, or wood on it, but it cannot break through glass and end stone. or, you know, just plain no PvP. As for the damage it deals, a direct hit may result in up to 7 hearts of damage, depending on the player's gear, and an indirect hit depends on how close it is to the player. How often do you take this kind of damage? Well, since fireballs are pretty costly, it is usually used in an endgame situation, with only 2 or 3 teams left, and no more bets left in the game. Only then would fireballs be pretty common and expected. However, you may also see some players using fireballs mid-game as well, which may be acquired by stealing other teams' generators or just sitting in theirs just to get a fireball. At that point, the fireball would be annoying since it's unexpected and surprising. Despite that, I am talking about the most annoying damage to be dealt, and fireballs are not the worst. Next up on my list is drowning damage. Yes, you heard me right. I'm talking about all the possible damage you can be dealt with in Bedwars, and I mean all of them. Since a water bucket is something you can buy from a Bedwars shop, it is possible that a player may die in result of drowning. However, the conditions are dependent on a couple of variables. Drowning in Bedwars is just the same as in vanilla Minecraft. You have air bubbles, you run out of air bubbles, and you start taking damage till you die. How often do you take this kind of damage? Well, it's 1 in 1,000. For starters, the player has to be AFK to be able to pull off this trick. Not to mention, the enemy must have a water bucket on them as well. Considering all of what I previously just said, it's out of the question that one would not use this kind of method to kill someone in a Bedwars game. So I've gone through a couple of damages you could take in a Bedwars game. Dive a bit deeper into the aspects of how and why it could be depicted as the most annoying damage to be dealt with in a Bedwars game. But there is still one kind of damage that could be dealt onto a Bedwars player, which is one I've saved as the best for last. Fall damage. Fall damage is common in a lot of games. Most people ignore it, some people are aware of it. However, in a Bedwars game, fall damage can really change the tide of your game. Let's say for instance, you're above the enemy base. You place the TNT down, and it exposes the enemy bed. You go in to break the bed, but because you build up too high and ended up taking significant fall damage, you get one-tapped by the enemy team. Annoying, right? Another instance, whenever you're commencing your first rush, you build up high so the enemy can get to you. However, when you finally reach the vicinity of the enemy base, you jump down from the high bridge, resulting in yourself fighting against the enemy with full health, and with you only 6 hearts left. Ever wonder why? Because nobody really cares about fall damage. It is so common among so many other games that we all forgot that it actually existed. Furthermore, fall damage is very dependent on the player itself as well. The higher you get, the more hearts you will lose when you jump down. The lower your bridge, and the enemy will get the jump on you instead. Everyone knows that in a Bedwars game, you bridge high very often. And whenever we are bridging, we would usually never thought about how high we're going, just that we are relieved to have the high ground instead of others. We have never thought about the consequences it holds to a player if said player slipped up and fell off the 20 block high bridge. Not to mention whenever you're above an enemy base. Even with the successful TNT placement, fall damage might lead to the failure of a bed rush your team planned so hard for. Overall, building up is an essential to win a Bedwars game, as it is a must-need strategy for winning a game. Not to mention the damage dealt is dependent on how high the player builds up. So, fall damage in a Bedwars game is, without a doubt, inevitable. In conclusion, fall damage is the most annoying damage to be dealt with in a Bedwars game because 1. Nobody really cares about it until it really hits you hard. 2. Receiving fall damage is inevitable, since building up is an essential for winning. And 3. The worst part of them all, you inflicted it onto yourself. Well, most of the time anyway. And that's all from me today, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe if you want. It really helps me out and it's totally free. You can always unsubscribe if you want, no biggie. If you want to watch another video, feel free to click in the info card or click on the video which is showing on your screen right now. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.